What's up? What's up? What's up, y'all? I made sure I came to the group this time instead of. What's up? What's up? What's up, y'all? I made sure I. Sorry. Um, I yeah, I made sure I came to the group this time. I messed up last time and did this on my page, and I was wondering why I was getting so many people to show up. No offense, but I was just like, that's crazy. But it turned out to be my main page. But welcome back, man. Hope everybody's having a good Wednesday or what's that, Tuesday. Good second week of the new year. Hope everybody's having a good day and good time. Kind of getting back into the swing of things. I guess this week is probably the first week back for many people. And it's true the same for us as college coaches. In fact, I traveled from California to Virginia late yesterday. Well, I flew all day and I got here about 11:30 last night. Then had to travel the 40 minutes to get home. So did that and got a little bit of rest. Got this morning, started working right away. And I kind of wanted to touch on this quick topic. Won't hold you too long today. Remember, like I want to help answer questions, be a resource to you all as parents. I promise you, there's no question that is um, insignificant. And every question is significant. And I guarantee you, if you have the question about recruiting, about confidence, about building up your athlete, about supporting your athlete, about dealing with a coach, if you have the question more times than not, other people also have the question. So I want to encourage you to be a little courageous if you haven't yet. And you can always send me the question in a DM. I'm happy to answer them that way. Or if I get on here, I do now have my phone hooked up so I can get the comments as well at the same time. So I want to be a resource to you all as we go through this process. But real quick, what I want to talk about today, as I mentioned, is everybody's kind of getting back into the swing of things as we now start the new year, and travel ball teams are kind of coming back together for practice, and high school's getting ready to start here in about a month. College teams where our players are coming in, if they haven't started already, they're starting soon, and it made me think of this topic today of the return to school or the return to play, and what a coach's greatest fear is. And so, as a college coach specifically, I want to kind of talk on that, as it will kind of lead into how you can help your athlete or support your athlete in their process of wanting to play and compete at the highest level. But also, I would say, what that would look like to be in their own self accountability in that same process. So, I've done this exercise with a few different players in my life. Actually, all the players that I work with, I always ask this question. And I ask the question, what's the difference between average athletes and elite athletes? And no offense to average athletes, but really, what is the difference? And oftentimes, our athletes will give us a lot of great answers, right? They do things outside of what's expected of them. They are more willing to ask questions, right? Ask for help. They're more willing to work through fear and frustration, have a little bit of courage and push themselves through hard times and have a little bit of grit, as they say. They're also usually a teammate who's willing to bring someone along with them along the journey, right? So we get all these answers, all very great answers. And then I ask them the question of what can get in the way of their ability to become or be elite athletes. And oftentimes the things that come up are attitudes, circumstances outside of injuries, circumstances, their environments that they're in, time. They'll say also access. Excuse me. They'll say also access, things like that. And I would say, um, interesting enough, you might have more access, or your athlete might have more access than they actually think, if they would be willing to put themselves out there and ask the question. So, what am I getting at with this? One of our greatest fears as we're now getting ready to start up the season, especially as college athletes, is that we've spent 4 months before December really developing, building, and growing day in and day out, grinding every day to elevate ourselves to the highest level. We've taken step after step after step to build this ladder of success. And I don't know if you heard the story, but it takes 8 weeks to build a muscle, but it takes 2 or 3 days to start to break down that muscle. So, as coaches, one of our greatest fears is simply put an athlete who you do need to rest. So let me clarify that. There is a rest period in this process. You absolutely need rest, but then you also have to kind of train your body to get back after it as soon as possible, right? So taking 2 to 3 days off is essential. I think even taking a day or two in between workouts is also essential. But I think on the grand scheme of things, one of our biggest fears as coaches is when we start back up to campus and we don't know if the athletes have done anything over the break or not. And it's a little bit different with college because we have about a month and a half off or a month and a few days off. And, as high school athletes, they usually have 2 weeks. But I think also you guys have a little bit of growth between, I would say, break ending and when they start high school. But I think in general, those are one of our greatest fears is, did an athlete do what they needed to do over break? And did they have the access and the resources to be able to develop over time after they rested? And I think that's one of our biggest, greatest fears as a college program. And I think it's also a fear of high school coaches, of travel ball coaches. And so that's probably why a lot of times the culture of our sport is kind of grind hard and really don't take time for rest. And I think that's the wrong approach, but we have to have an approach that realizes that, again, it takes 8 weeks to build a muscle and only 2 or 3 days to start to break down that muscle. So that's one of our greatest fears. And so, why am I sharing this with you today? I worked with a group of athletes over the break and over all of December in Washington. I worked with over 40 athletes. And I was thinking about how do I support them after they've learned and grown as um, an athlete that kind of has my hitting style. Because one of the hardest things is to build something up and then kind of let it sit for 6 months. And so I started to think about how I can create some sort of help for those athletes. And so what I've decided I'm going to do is create sort of a hitting program for anyone that's interested in that group, offering it specifically to them. So I'm not telling you guys it's specifically for them. But in that group, what will happen is I have a hitting portal that I've created for my players that has over 100 hitting videos in it. And so what I'm going to do is allow them to send me in video of their hitting. I'm going to break down their hitting for them, give them some feedback on how they can improve on certain drills, what things are getting in the way of their success. And then I'm going to give them access to my portal, which then links them to certain drills to work on that specific thing. And then what I'm also going to do is if they want to do anything over Zoom or live, I'm going to also offer that as well. So it's a program that I created, again, specifically for them. But I think that's what we have to realize as parents, helping our athletes who have aspirations of playing college, is that we have to train the accountability muscle way earlier or more often than we want to. We have to kind of give our athletes the opportunity to find resources to grow in their skill when there is some downtime. We also need our athletes to kind of have that motivation to want to do that at the same time. So I think remembering goals and providing the resources are really key things that you as parents can do for your athletes. And I think long gone is the time that if your athlete wants to play at elite level, that they don't do lessons. If you don't have at least a hitting coach, and I would say someone who can give them extra reps in their skill as a defensive player. If they're not a pitcher or catcher, they can probably just get away with what you guys do in practice and then doing some things on their own. But I think like if you want your athlete to be at the elite level, they need to have a catching coach if they're a catcher. They need to have a pitching coach if they're a pitcher. They need to have a hitting coach if they hit or slap. That's just the way of the sport, and that's just the way that elite athletes grow and develop at a faster rate. So if I can plug my little 2 cents in here, I think one of our greatest fears, like I said, is an athlete who comes back unprepared or loses all the things that we prepared in our last 6 months or 8 months or whatever the case may be, 4 months. That's one. And number two is when we don't allow our athletes to use the resources that they have in front of them in order to grow and develop. So that's just a little message for you guys today. Again, I think what I'm trying to get out of this conversation is from the coach's perspective, what we fear the most. And I think from a parent perspective, what resources can you provide for your athlete if they say they want to do this thing? And I think this is where you can kind of hold it to them and saying like, hey, are you actually going to do this thing? If you really want to perform at this level or be the best that you say you want to be, this is what it takes. And so you can kind of give them this video as a feedback, show them the video, have them see some things I do with other athletes. But in general, we have to elevate them if they really want to play at the next level. So I just kind of want to leave that with you guys today. I hope everyone has a great rest of the week. Again, Feel free to send questions that you might have. Let me be a support for you all. I will continue to do this every week for as long as I feel like it's necessary. And I probably will start removing the old videos from here and putting them on the YouTube channel. So if anyone has interest in seeing the older videos, they'll probably be on there. So make sure you also head over to the YouTube channel and follow me there. But besides that, I hope everyone has a great evening. And thank you so much for those who watch the replay. And we'll talk to you guys later. Peace.